It's actually just chill enough for a video, but let's see. Whatever. I don't know how long this thing will end up being, but I do have a video game topic again, potentially maybe even two. Probably only one, but they're so connected. I would like to maybe cover them both. So the other week I finally played Space Marine 2 as a dog sitting for a friend who has a proper gaming computer. A laptop, GPU of which isn't even actually all that powerful. I think it's 4060. And most of you would say that, oh, 4060, what the hell is that? You know, anything with 60 in the end, how will I ever get all of my gate tracing and 8K resolutions? Nothing will work on a, on shit like, I don't know, like everything runs on that laptop basically full speed. All you have to do is just play in 1080p instead of 16K, and just everything works. 60 FPS, of course, but by everything I'm talking about AAA. But you cannot expect any AAA run, you know, faster than 60 FPS. It's just unreasonable, because those games are not made for that. Like most of those games, even if you put them on like a supercomputer, quote unquote, if those existed, probably wouldn't run faster than, like, you know, 60, 70, 80, just because of how they made. You know, you can get 300 FPS, you can get 1,000 FPS out of, you know, Counter-Strike. Well, maybe not now, not since CS2 came out, but out of CSGO, yeah, you could get like 300 FPS out of that game. You know, that's understandable, but you cannot get like 500 FPS out of Ghost of Tsushima. You know, it's just let's not do that, boo-boo. This is not where we were attacked by wasps last time. Well, you attacked the wasps and they attacked that, but whatever lives down there, not super interested. Yep. Flappity flap. Okay, so Space Marine 2, nothing quite. Ooh, bunny. It's right there. Oh, chiba da. Nothing quite demonstrates this giant gap between me and the grifter community of YouTube, which is the only gaming community left on the internet. Like games like Clair Obscura and Space Marine 2. I actually had no idea, because how the hell would I know? Not a single review even mentioned that Space Marine 2 is not a real single-player game. It's actually just it's a vermintide, you know. It's a co-op horde shooter. Not just a co-op shooter, it's a co-op horde shooter. Well, pretty much all of the co-op shooters these days are horde shooters. Like even Warframe, you know, most of what is known for is essentially tower defense type of mode of it, right? Which actually isn't even in classic shooter terms, modes like that are known as the horde mode. And Destiny is technically not a horde shooter, and I cannot think of many other co-op shooters like that are like Destiny, because everything else is a horde shooter. It's slightly more complicated than just, quote unquote, just a horde shooter, but Deep Rock Galactic is a horde shooter. You know, the shooter part of it is a horde part. But there is a game, there is one game that is so similar to... There is a game to which Space Marine 2 is so similar, it is uncanny. And something that happens in that game, something that happens in Space Marine 2, happens very early, that before that, only one more game has ever done. And that game was not very good at all. And that's the World War Z horde shooter, if you remember that game. I got it for free on Epic. That's the only way I ever would have even known about it existing. And Space Marine 2 is literally just that. Like, imagine that, but instead of zombies, you have Xenos, which are basically aliens from the movie Aliens. That's it. And that's your game. What else do we get in Space Marine 2 that isn't just World War Z, but with Xenos instead of zombies? Well, we get some Warhammer kind of like brutalist architecture and stuff like that. In terms of actual kind of like atmosphere and whatnot, I feel like it's been toned down a little bit. I feel like there's basically no more kind of like movie style storytelling. The game is no longer properly paced, like like an adventure, like a journey, because it's just mission based. And because it's a co-op game, well, there are only so many things you can do in the mission, in order to fit it all in the... Basically, there's only one gameplay mechanic, mold of like Left 4 Dead. So there are no more set pieces. There are no more like QTEs or anything like that, which obviously not a huge fan of, but still. It's just, you have a level, it's entirely linear, and you go down that level and you shoot hordes. And you even have like literal vermintide mechanics where just a horde of enemies will literally just like, a wave is coming. You have that type of shit in that game. So it's like even semi-procedurally, well, not really procedurally, randomly, kind of generated attacks by waves. I think you only get it in the proper quote-unquote vermintide mode, not the story vermintide mode. But even then, it feels like it's fully procedural, and I'm pretty sure it is, actually. I mean, even if it's locked in place, even if it's not actually being procedurally calculated, like, okay, cool, like, whatever, even if you play the story, you don't necessarily, waves are not necessarily all identical all the time. No, I think they are identical. It's just that they were locked in their final state, but originally they were made by an algorithm. Because if you already have the system, to procedurally generate quote-unquote a wave, why the hell would you make it by hand? Makes no sense. So yeah, essentially the story mode of the game, you just walk forward and you just shoot Xenos. It no longer feels like a shooter, like the first game. Definitely had like shooter elements. It no longer feels like a shooter because, yes, there are some enemies that technically shoot you, and it looks, by the way, really stupid, like Xenos that shoot you. The way they do it is just so stupid and cheap. God damn it. And because there's like a million enemies attacking you at any point, it's more of like a Dynasty Warriors type of stuff. It's like a Dynasty Warriors with a little bit of, due to aesthetic and the feel of the shooting, I would say like Gears of War, maybe. Although there's no cover, of course, in the game. But just kind of like imagine Gears of War without cover. And now it's also Dynasty Warriors, and you have like essentially just one semi-endless combo that you can, weed through fodder enemies with once they surround you. So like, who the hell cares for that? I don't know. The melee combat is pretty similar to how it was in the first game, but because of how many enemies are attacking you now, and the fact that basically you're constantly forced into melee with stronger enemies, because once they got close to you, they just start attacking you, and you have to go into melee, otherwise, like, they will kill you before you can shoot them to death, because like officer enemies are super fucking damage spongy in Space Marine 2. It is stupid how spongy they are. Everything is so spongy. The only thing that's not spongy is then when Chaos Marines show up, those actually die fairly fast. But anything that's like the Xenos that charge you, like there are multiple types of those, are just impossible. Like, wow. And it's kind of like counterintuitive. It doesn't feel organic, that type of game playing, you know. So it's you kind of like have a few DSP moments in the early in the game where it's like, why the hell is this happening? Why does the game not work? Like, what the hell is this? Because it just feels ridiculous when there's like an enemy that's approximately your size, you know, charging you, and you offload like 2 mags into the Xeno that's charging you, and not only the Xeno doesn't even flinch, but it's still running, you know. It's no, it's the other way around. Not only it's still running, it doesn't even flinch. It's just charging you, and like okay, what are my weapons? Nothing. Like my weapons are like, what am I shooting, nerves? So yeah, you definitely feel way less empowered in Space Marine 2 because of course the game is designed around 3 players running together. So basically, you know, so that the game wasn't overtly easy, they made it so that each Space Marine is like probably something like approximately the third of what you were in Space Marine 1. So you no longer really play like a Space Marine, you no longer feel like you play like a Space Marine. Well, except for like basic visuals and I don't know, whatever. The weightiness of movement. But you no longer feel powerful. You no longer feel unstoppable because you are now just an asshole, one of 3 assholes that run around and shoot things. So, let's see. Point of view, by the way, I really did not enjoy point of view. It's trash. It needed to be higher. The point of view is way too. POV is still way too low, so your needs to be higher. Game design 101, you know. But I understand they wanted, you know, for you to have the model of the Ultramarine as the main thing on the screen that's present, right? Because that's what all the screenshots are going to show, and people will look at this giant Space Marine, and I'm playing as one. Wow, this is so cool. And it looks good, yeah, but I don't know. Honestly, the whole thing should have been first person to begin with, like for real, because it's literal vermintide. It's like dark tide, essentially, quite literally, in fact. You know, I think it should have been first person. But if you're gonna make third person, I think I don't remember 100%, but I think the camera was better in the first game. I don't remember the problem of just it being way too low. No, in the second game, it's way too low. So the Space Marine is constantly right in front of your face instead of the camera kind of looking over the character and in front. You know, the camera needs to be looking ahead, right? The camera needs to be pointed so that you see where you're looking, right? And in shitty games, like think of Max Payne camera. Max Payne camera is so high you can't even see the like legs of Max Payne half the time, right? It's like hovering above his head. Well, in Space Marine 2, camera hovers like on the level of Space Marine's ass. So you either have to tilt it completely down so that you can only see forward, you know, through the very top of the screen, or if you point it normally, you know, the Space Marine takes up like, you know, I would say like this quarter of the screen. So it's constantly in the way of you trying to see forward. So yeah, like fuck that camera. Like, I don't know, the devs just honestly, well, when you do something like that for a video game, I'm like, yeah, devs didn't know what they were doing. Fuck. Okay, well, all right. So I already explained that, so structure Structure is trash and boring. It's just mission-based slop. It's no longer like a real, like, fucking any Gears of War, even like take a shitty one, you know, it actually feels like a real game you play. And I think most of them you can play in co-op, right? I don't think you can play the first one. I think the first one, I'm not sure about the remaster, but the original first Gears of War, I think you could play it in co-op locally. Well, it doesn't matter, right? Like, you can play those games and it feels like you're playing like a real video game. Like, even Army of Two, you know, feels like a real video game despite it being in time. Biohazard 5 feels like a real game rather than just like mission-based slop where you just load a map and you run forward and you shoot things and then it's over, and just load another linear map after that. Like, nope, it doesn't work like that. You all know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it becomes more challenging for me to explain this to you. But think of like a proper single-player game, right? Structure versus a structure of something like Vermintide, right? So that's Space Marine 2, and I have no idea why no one calls it out for that, because it's just stupid for a single-player game to be doing that. Additionally, the levels themselves, Unreal Engine 5, like obviously Unreal Engine 5, it can look good, but it's still early, you know, or maybe just unnecessary. The whole technology may be a bit unnecessary. So, and I will tell in a second why, actually, even more, but here's an even bigger problem. Constant elevators, dude. Constant elevators. It's elevator city. Even when you play co-op, even if you, no matter if you play co-op, you play campaign, it's the same levels. If you play like the co-op mode, it's the same levels as the campaign, you know. Only you don't play them with like, just like, if you play the co-op levels by yourself, you get like random whatever, like random bots, right? But if you play by yourself in the story mode, you get technically story related you know, guys running with you. And yeah, even in the story missions, it's just elevator city. Elevators, 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 elevators. Constant fucking elevators. But there's an even bigger problem than the elevators. Textures. Remember the texture load from Unreal Engine 3 and 4? Well, it's back now. It's now back. Well, that problem initially was almost entirely fixed, right? In Unreal Engine 4 on PC. Well, now it's back in Unreal Engine 5 on PC, only it's a remix. You know, it's a new modern feature of Unreal Engine 5. It's updated for modern times. The return of the Unreal texture load, only worse this time, because textures now constantly flip back and forth between low and high resolution. Or sometimes they just get stuck at low resolution forever. They never flip to high. So, for some reason, in Space Marine 2, it mostly happens in cutscenes, but in gameplay as well. But at cutscenes, it happens all the time. All the cutscenes just look like fucking claymation because of that. Everything looks, almost every single surface, including like characters, looks just hideous on PC. So yeah, good job, great job, Unreal Engine. You know, Unreal Engine prides itself on being an engine that does not require any form of optimization at all, any form of LODs, no nothing. So the developers don't bother optimizing LODs or anything for anything, and it shows, because Unreal Engine obviously cannot do the thing it claims to be doing. So yeah, oof, like graphically the game is just fucked, honestly. It's very obvious that Unreal Engine cannot actually load those levels in one go, which is, I feel like, something we've figured out quite a while ago. You know, how to make, like, you know, actual levels that do not necessarily require loading. Even hidden loading is not necessarily required, or if it's required, it's like relatively short. Those elevator rides are not short, and they also not subtle at all. Oof, so sad. The game, because it's made on Unreal Engine and the assets are of relatively Unreal Engine 5, I mean, and the assets are of relatively high definition. It makes you feel like it's a AAA game, but it honestly, it is made like a AA or even like single A, you know, indie 20 people made a co-op type shooter. Made like a co-op horde shooter or something like that. It feels like Vermintide. It feels like, you know, 20, 30 people at most, you know, worked on this game. That's not a bad thing in and of itself. I'm saying it feels cheap and lazy. Yeah, so the story doesn't feel like you're even playing a story, because it's just mission-based slop. You know, you do a mission, you do a debrief, you do a brief of the next mission, then you slow walk back to the next mission, and then the mission starts. Like this, like serialized attempt of storytelling never really works in any game. It didn't work in MGS5, it didn't work in Peace Walker, it didn't work here, okay? So, because it's unnatural, it's fake. You know, you don't tell stories like that. Stories are not told in like individual short missions in between which you completely go back to your, you know, your mother base. That's just not how things work. You know, story is a story. It has an arc. It has a journey. It has a, it's some form of continuous adventure. You know, you don't tell, like a meaningful story through just a collection of disjointed missions. You can, if you want a game about a collection of disjointed missions, but you do want like this collection also have a story, you can, but you know, when you make something like Space Marine 2, you think it would be your priority to make a proper single-player game first. No, there is borderline no single-player mode. It's essentially just a co-op horde mode. You know, it doesn't even feel like, I don't know, take you the worst possible Gears of War you can think of, has a better story campaign that actually feels like a single-player story campaign. What Space Marine 2 has is not a story campaign. It's just those like multiplayer missions that like some dialogue was added to make it seem like there's a story happening. And then we have cutscenes, and that's it. But you can tell, like the devs think we're on the levels up, then you go forward and you shoot. That it's not a real single player game. It's a co-op linear, you know, hallway horde shooter. So yeah, if you want to take the story seriously, it's horribly paced because of the whole like mission structure. And yeah, constant elevators and literally no textures in cutscenes. Like in cutscenes, you just play with textures from, well, basically PS2 era, where like everything was very low LOD, I should say. Yeah. Gameplay does, as I already said, right, like gameplay does not feel particularly brutal. You don't feel particularly powerful. You're much weaker in Space Marine 2 than you were in the first game, because the game is now balanced around 3 players. Oh, and by the way, I did mention Chaos previously. Chaos does literally nothing. There's some kind of bug with AI where approximately, I would say, 85 to maybe even 90% of the time, Chaos enemies do literally nothing. They just stand there. They never notice you, or they spawn and they do nothing. And yeah, I don't know. You just walk up to like a pack of like horde enemies, and you start shooting them, and you just kill the whole pack with maybe the last one kind of like reacting to your presence. So, Great job, great job. The game is like game been released like over a year ago. You know, that thing was never fixed apparently, so that's nice. Because like the game doesn't even, you know, again, because I've already told you what kind of game it was. You know, it's not properly structured as a single player game. It's kind of like, you know, you will be constantly walking through the levels and just see random enemies standing here and there doing nothing. Kind of like what the hell? Why are those enemies just standing there doing nothing? Like, why did you put them there? And like not made any kind of script, any kind of trigger for them? Well, they didn't, because first of all, they didn't need to, because it's a co-op game. Some player will aggro them, right? And if they don't, well, it's just, you know, we're just putting content. We're just putting stuff, you know, shit into the levels so that there's something in the levels. Vermintide logic. So yeah, fantastic, right? Yeah, AI is kind of broken. Well, no wonder there's so many enemies on the screen. Obviously, it's going to be broken. Because, like, all AI is optimized to do in this game is just have these giant hordes of enemies that die if you, you know, fucking blow on them. And, yeah, you know, AI is not optimized really to be doing anything else. So any kind of other behavior just glitches out usually. So yeah, that's fun. Bosses are very weak, I should say. There's pretty much no bosses in the game. And those that exist are just honestly like giant bullet sponge thing that you need to circle around and shoot for 10 minutes. It's just so vermintide, dude. It's borderline like offensive and embarrassing. That's pretty much the only type of boss that the game has, and it has it like 3 times, and each time it's the same thing. At one point, it has 2 of those. Ooh. Yeah, guys, Space Marine 2 is so based. Return to true based gaming. Guys, Space Marine 2, best game in years. Yeah, fucking grift never ends with you guys. Grift never fucking ends. You know, completely trash something for being mildly woke. You know, having Unreal Engine, everything is so sleek and shiny. Ooh. And you shoot things, and you have a chainsaw in your gun. And like, yeah, wow. Hey, you know, and there were us, you know, we're playing like Valkyria Profile, or sorry, not Valkyria, like Valkyria Chronicles, and maybe MGS4, and maybe even a little bit of Uncharted, Mirror's Edge, obviously. And there were you guys playing Call of Duty, Gears of War, and this is just the return of you guys, you know? This, like, praise for Space Marine 2. Space Marine 2 is not even remotely a good game, guys. It is, honestly, it's just vermintide again. And by your own standards, you should be thinking of that game as like a slop. But no, it's about Space Marines, which is basically for you, because you never knew anything about Warhammer, but it kind of looks like Gears of War, right? Technically, you know, Space Marines, you know, they kind of look like those hulking men from Gears of War. So you just kind of like equate the two. Only Gears of War was a real video game, at least, honestly. This is not. This is vermintide. This is just something, how should I put it? It's just a collection of levels to run through with your friends. It's not structured as a proper narrative. It doesn't have a real structure of a single player video game. And the fact that purely through the power of dialogue and cutscenes, some kind of story was like retroactively, you know, like fitted on top of that whole structure, well, that doesn't mean that this is a proper game now. I'm sorry, guys, it isn't. No, not a single word about any of that. No. Based gaming is back. Fuck off. Fucking grifter losers. So, yeah. So the game can only be what it is, right? Which is like a Vermintide with bots, if you play it as a single player game. And Vermintide with bots, I don't know if you ever played Vermintide, but Vermintide with bots does not play like a real single player game. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And thank you, J-Rock. And yeah, you cannot do really anything interesting with it, because it's, well, it needs to stay what it is, right? It needs to stay this thing where players just run through it and call it a day. You know, you cannot do any set pieces. You cannot do any kind of interesting, I don't know, transport. You cannot do, like, I don't even know. It would have been cool. Like, you never even separate from your party. That's so funny. So it's just constantly three assholes running along each other. And yeah, it's very much required if you want to do a linear, you know, co-op horde shooter. You just don't have to do it. You just don't have to do anything interesting, right? If that's your genre. So they didn't. Difficulty balance is pretty balls. Like, normal is completely brain dead, for example. Like, normal is basically game journalist difficulty. I have no idea why there is one more difficulty setting below normal. But veteran, it says that that's the intended difficulty. And veteran, guys, on veteran, it takes 5 clips to kill any non-fodder enemies. It takes, well, realistically, it's probably like 3 to 4, but let's say 5. And it just feels stupid. It doesn't feel right. Like, who the hell fucking balanced that? And if you go down to normal, even the, like, non-fodder enemies, like, even they die in just a few shots. Like, what the hell? Like, who fucking balanced this? Yeah, the return of the Unreal texture load. Sorry, I'm looking through my notes. Only it's worse this time. Yeah, truly next generation of video game graphics. Absolutely. Like, let's do texture load again. Only do it worse this time. Wow. So fucking, you know, forward thinking. Very proud to be part of, you know, very proud to have lived long enough to see the return of the texture load. Yeah, so much better than what Unreal Engine 4 used to be able to do. Like, and we had games just recently, right? Like the Stellar Blade and Hogwarts Legacy, Unreal Engine 4 games. Yeah, like, oof, graphics in those games were just so weak compared to what Unreal Engine 5 can do. Like, yeah, we needed to retire Engine 4. Yeah, no, guys, we needed to retire Engine 4, absolutely. Like, Engine 5 is the future. I can see it, I can feel it. I can see all that potential that 4 could not reach at all. In addition to elevators, by the way, there's plenty of door opening animations. Just if you're a huge fan of hidden load screens, you have plenty. You have so many of those. Not too many different types of those. It's literally identical elevator everywhere. But there's also a few of literally identical everywhere doors to go through. So fun times, you know, you get those. Take about 1 to 2 minutes at a time, honestly, to do it, because until all of your assholes get onto the elevator, for you to press the button, that takes quite a few seconds. Then the elevator needs to close, then it moves, then it needs to stop. That's probably a minute at least. Probably more, in fact. So let's round it up to about 2 minutes per elevator. Yeah, you're gonna love it, guys. If you're a fan of hidden load screens, you're gonna get a kick out of those. Only they're not really hidden in any way, right? So maybe you will not. There's also, which is pretty strange to do that for a co-op game, but because you would think, like, in a co-op game, like, those games need to be untied from one another. But waiting until some asshole somewhere stops talking so that you can press the interact button you've been standing in front of for the last 3 minutes, waiting for the dialogue to be over. You would think, you know, it's a co-op game, so let me just press the button and skip the dialogue. I think even Vermintide, like, understands that. If you're going to be replaying that mission, you know, for 300 times, well, at least that's what the developers intend you to do. Well, maybe just let me skip this thing. please. No, no, you need to be standing in front of it, waiting for the dialogue to be over. It's literally from like those, straight from those like meme set pieces from exactly 10 to 15 years ago, you know, when the cutscene completely pauses itself and tells you, like pauses itself like mid motion, and it tells you like press A to kill the boss, and if you don't press A, it just will remain in the frozen, you know, position forever. Like there's no way to fail that QTE. You can just wait forever until something happens. So it's kind of like, yeah. Actually, no, it's not like, I don't know why I thought of that comparison. But essentially, yeah, until the game decides that you can press the button, you cannot press the button, which is understandable for a single-player game, maybe, but for a co-op horror shooter, like, I understand why. Like, yeah, those levels are intended to be replayed over and over again, so why are we, like, why are you blocking players from, you know, their ability to maybe quickly run through a level? So yeah, but it definitely feels like that, you know, it definitely feels like the game that, well, it's entirely linear, so yeah, there are similarities, I suppose. Sorry, I'm just being distracted by the fact that I need to go close that gate before I let Aini loose here. But Aini is a fucking asshole of a mind of his own. So he doesn't want to go back to the gate because he thinks we're going to go for another round of, you know, another round of walking. He doesn't want that. And when Aini doesn't want something, when he's on a leash, he thinks that it's totally within his rights to just, you know, fight you over it. No, Aini. You stand here. No. No. I didn't close it when I came through it because I thought maybe we're gonna go double black and see if, see if we can go for another round. But no, I need to change his mind. Another game similar to Space Marine 2 that's being like totally overglazed right now is Clair Obscur, of course, which I don't understand at all. First of all, it's not an indie game. Everyone's praising it as like this triumph of an independent team. It's not an indie game, first of all. No, there's plenty of fucking funding for that thing. There is absolutely just as much money put on that game's marketing as it was in the development of the game itself, which automatically makes it like not how indie games are made. And well, because, you know, if you're an indie developer and you have $1 million to make the game, that's usually all you got. You don't got another $1 million to just throw away on marketing. Even if you do, you would usually put it towards finishing the game, not just like, hey, you know, guys, we did not 10 million, but not for the game, but for the marketing. Like, that's not how indie video games are made, guys. So, people are totally fucking overglazing it for these, like... So, first of all, the return of the triumphant return of turn-based combat. What the hell are you talking about? The latest re-release of Persona 5 was like 3 years ago or 2 years ago. SMT5 came out, I believe, either a year ago or a year and a half ago. And then again, Persona, all you guys are talking about is Persona. It's the only Japanese game you know. That other game by Atlas, some kind of something Refantasio, whatever. That thing came out like a year ago, I believe, and all of you were playing it and talking about it. What the hell are you talking about? The triumphant return of turn-based combat. Fractured But Whole came out only a few years ago, and it had the same, you know, like semi-real-time turn-based combat. Child of Light, I think, was the first game they did it that I remember. Or there was some kind of like Castle Breakers or some other game that was doing it first, I believe. but Child of Light was definitely like one of the first. And then the South Park, the RPG, came out a long time ago. But the second one, Fractured by Hole, came out only like, what, 4 or 5 years ago, I believe. And SMT5 was just like a year ago, or maybe a year and a half. Oh, I completely forgot. The PC version of Persona 4 came out only a few years ago. It was a huge thing for all of you fuckers who couldn't bother to emulate the PS2 version or the Vita one. And the PS3 remaster, PS3, Persona 3 Portable remake, or not even Persona 3 Portable, just Persona 3 Portable re-unloaded or whatever, came out like less than a year ago, I believe. What the hell do you mean the triumphant return of turn-based combat? Also, like, not to count all the fucking indie games that came out in the last year, even, that were turn-based. What about Slay the Spire? All of you know Slay the Spire. Like, no? Like, I don't understand. What the hell you mean, the triumphant return of Great White Dope? The inevitable return of the Great White Dope. Like, what do you mean? Triumphant return of turn-based combat. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. Oh, by the way, are you seeing what's happening with my camera? That's because my phone is literally ungluing itself together. Ungluing itself apart, I should say. So yeah, guys, I have no idea what you're talking about. I think you're full of garbage. It makes absolutely no sense to me. On the game being like, genius or whatever, guys, what fucking genius is about that game? Precisely. I think the game literally opens with, trying to emotionally manipulate you to carry about some woman that you've just seen on the screen for 1 minute. Like, it's this like fake emotional, trauma bait of Final Fantasies post 10. Is this really something new? Is this really something we wanted? I don't know. It doesn't strike me that revolutionary. Only this time it's French though, so it's fresh. Yeah. And I noticed that the entire aesthetic is very much based on France. So it's a French developer making a game that's basically like antheming, France. I don't know, it just sounds very, like I would never do that. I feel like it's very like kind of like chauvinistic. It's like, this is the only thing we can think about is our culture. Our culture is best. Let's make a game that celebrates it and show the entire world how cool we are. I mean, I understand that. I appreciate your patriotism, but as an artist, that's like really your best idea. That's your best idea. That's your best concept, right? That's the most imaginative, most creative thing you could come up with. Okay, guys, whatever. Like, I'm sorry, but I feel like it's very shallow and not very sophisticated. To be doing things like that. I mean, yeah, I know I'm overthinking things a little bit when I say shit like that, but like, no, for real though. It's like, Russian games are supposed to be about Russia. Like Atomic Heart is the same thing. Russian games are supposed to be about Russia, dude, yeah. French games are supposed to be about France, yeah. Hideo Kojima doesn't think that. Hideo makes games he wants to makes games about, which is fucking Snake Plissken, and, like, yeah, guys, I don't know. I feel like it's just so, like, on the nose and kind of stupid, but whatever. Hey guys, did you know we are from France? Look, our game is about France. Okay, so French people can only think about France, I suppose. That's all you know. You're from France. France is all you know. Like, okay, well, I'm sorry for you then. I don't understand how so many people are completely okay with it. It's like, oh yeah. Of course it's about France, it's a French game. Like, what's the problem with it? Well, the problem is that it kind of, like, sings of shallowness. But whatever. Yep, my phone completely falling apart. So yeah, and then we have the graphics part of that game, which is just, it's just Unreal Engine Asset Store barfed all over the screen. We have seen that art style in games ever since something like Paragon by Epic was a thing. You know what I'm talking about, that like Unreal Engine tech demo art style. And, you know, floating, like, impossible, insane skyboxes and floating islands and just like random geometry everywhere. If we have like a building, but put it on its side and it's gonna be like sticking off the ground. Ooh. You know, we've seen that type of artistry ever since fucking Unreal Engine 3 came out, and Epic kind of like came up with that art style of like things you put on top of a GPU box, like graphics card box. Like, we've seen that stuff since forever ago. It's Unreal Engine tech demo art style, and it's very shallow, and it's just kind of like visual clutter. People say, oh, but it looks so beautiful, and look at this like style of whatever. What style are you talking about? It's just clutter. It's fancy colors plus clutter, and you think, oh, but look at these amazing, you know, graphics and this art style. That is so impressive. It would have been impressive if there was some kind of intention to it. There's no intention to it. It's just shit on the screen, so that you can tell, floating islands. Oh, fucking hell, my phone is completely falling apart. Right? Floating islands. So many of them. So many floating islands. Oh my god, this is so beautiful. Yeah, but that's the entire game. Like, I don't know. I don't feel any intention to it. I am very purposely describing that art style as Unreal Asset Store barfed all over your game. With no intention, no design, no purpose. And like, it's cool if that's what you wanted to portray, you know, like a mosh of barf. But I like things that have more intention. I like things that are more designed with purpose. Even if you did design manually and with purpose, all of that, you know, basically kaleidoscope of bullshit, kaleidoscope of bullshit, it's, well, I would appreciate if you, like, designed proper levels and stuff, you know. It's just not very, it's not very touching emotionally or intellectually. Looks like an Unreal tech demo. I'm sorry, it does. And all you guys are coping because a Final Fantasy game came out. Only this time it's French, and a couple of streamers who were totally not paid to do so told you that it was fantastic. If literally the game was called Final Fantasy like 17 or whichever the next one numerically would be, you would say, ah, fuck, this is like Final Fantasy 13 all over again. So this very interesting like anti-AAA grift that's been happening for the last year is very interesting to me. I have not quite experienced anything like it. Just the world keeps falling apart. We now not only we praise, how should I put it? We went from hating on AAA to loving AAA just for pretending to be AA, which I never expected that you guys would, you know, you would fall for this bait like so quickly. Just a year ago, you know, it was fuck all AAA, you know, those developers are corrupt, those developers are talentless, and now, you know, some other people with big money decided to start their own branch of AAA, and just because it's technically not from Ubisoft, you guys are like, ah, yes, that's exactly what I wanted. Well, apparently 3 Final Fantasy 13 games were not what you wanted. Final Fantasy 15 was stupid, wasn't it? Oh, but if Final Fantasy 15 was made by a AA French developer, you would say, guys, this is the greatest thing ever. This double standard of, this game is okay, but because it's AAA, I expected so much more from it that, and I didn't get it, so because it's AAA, I'm gonna hate it for it. This double standard has always been present, and it's been very vocally present in the quote-unquote gaming community, English-speaking gaming community, which is just grift community, honestly. But now that we actually do start getting essentially AA games, because like Space Marine 2, even if it's technically AAA, like, guys, I encourage you to try it, like, legit. I don't encourage you to buy it, but I encourage you to try it. You will see that it's not a AAA game. It's just vermintide with like with better graphics, I suppose. I don't know how else to describe the graphics of Space Marine 2. They are technically kinda Unreal Engine 5-ish, but with all the load screens, I almost wish the game had graphics like, 5% worse, but, no elevator rides and no texture load. So, yeah, you get occasionally pretty high definition graphics, but yeah, but the textures don't load, and every 10 minutes of gameplay, you have to wait 5 minutes in an elevator. Okay, my phone is dead. Yeah, anyway, so it's a AA game, and it's like so strange that now that some AA games can look like AAA, you guys just like eat it up and say, oh no, this is the best game ever because this is AA striking back. No, it's not AA, first of all, it's AAA, and second, AAA has been doing the same thing for the last 10 years and you've hated it. Now, just because the label is slightly different. Oh, guys, your ability to form opinions has never ceases to amaze. Okay, bye-bye.